What is up, you savages? This is the Protect Your Neck podcast, and I'm your host, Dan Tom. Analyst is work you can find over at MMAJunkie.com, but on this here program, the Protect Your Neck podcast, we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do here today, tonight, whenever you're listening to this. Hopefully it's for the fight. Recording this early Friday morning, may not have slept. Be warned, going to try to expedite this for that reason and more, just to get it into your sweet little souls, my listeners. You guys are the ones that keep me going, my life fuel. So thank you for joining me here. Check the timestamps as per usual. We will talk a little bit of the top matchup for Bellator 263. I'm not sure where my breakdown is. I turned it in on Tuesday, but it's big turnarounds, and we got some busyness. We got two cards, and everybody's busting their ass behind the scenes. So bear with us over at Junkie. My work will drop when it drops. You guys know the deal. And it's to my fault. I really do got to try to get this stuff in sooner, and this is another reason why. So maybe an effort, so my stuff doesn't drop later in the week, because it's just so hard to turn around, though, folks. You know, in my defense, it's really tough. So I try to get this earlier to you, but it comes out when it comes out. I get done when I get done with it. A lot of variables at play, but rest assured, it is on the way. As well as a main event breakdown for the other card we'll be covering, which is UFC on ESPN 28, UFC Vegas 33, UFC Hall vs. Strickland. As per usual, check the timestamps for when those start. We'll do that from top to bottom, and recapping my picks and plays for the Soup du Jour, which is the UFC card, of course, from top to bottom at the very end if you're in a rush or just would like to hear less of my voice, which I get, and don't blame you. As there will be some notes off the top. It will be more like a note and then a quick recap of UFC Vegas 32. You know me, I always come clean. I never skip over. However, I also try not to stay too long, as most of the talking points have been beat, and you don't need me, who can get sometimes preachy, to beat things into you on my soapbox. So yeah, we'll just try to get through everything as fast as possible. How about that? You can check the time now in the future listeners, and see if I'm lying. We can make this an expedited edition. So yeah, just thank you guys for, people who I'm very grateful. Always grateful. A lot to be grateful for. I'm really run rampant tired, not just from tonight, from these last few weeks. I really got to limit what I do and don't do. Might have to go back to like some kind of auto no instead of just auto saying yes to everybody, because it's it's not exactly the most reciprocative environment. And a lot of you are, by the way, and I'm about to shout some of y'all out. But as far as the people who work in this space and my colleagues, it can be brutal, and that'll be part of the note too, because weeks like this especially really get your boy down, not just beaten down from a bunch of stuff that no one cares about. I'm not going to go into, so don't worry. But yeah, shouts to those who do support mixedmartialanalyst.com for this free show. Even though coming off technically a losing week, and we'll talk about that, and actually could have been a perfect, almost perfect week, perfect sheet on the odds breaker sheet at least. Shouts to the odds breaker. Ricardo, Robert, and the rest of you people, you are, who hit that PayPal link. I feel weird. It's like I'm a bad businessman, so don't listen to what I'm saying, I guess, or take it for a grain of salt or whatever. And I'm hardwired with my stupid character to like not ask in general, but it's like, it's like I feel bad plugging the PayPal in general. It's like, well, I'm not gonna plug it on a I feel bad plugging it on a winning night, because it's like, well, you won. Why are you gonna fucking enjoy, move on? Don't double back and tax your poor listeners who already listen to your ass, Dan. But then part of me is like, well, when are you gonna advertise your link when on a losing night? Well, so I always feel bad mentioning this thing, but yet some of y'all still found the analysis helpful on a losing week, because again, just because the result doesn't equal what we want doesn't mean the analysis was off, and a lot of y'all appreciated that. I was able to cash on that and still tip me on what wasn't a winning week, even though we were on a nice hot streak. So that was a surprise, but a pleasant one and an appreciative one. You guys don't need to be doing that, but I appreciate you guys. Of course, that's the PayPal link at mixedmartialanalyst.com. Right to the right, you might have to toggle to the right if you're on a mobile. But you can also go down to the Amazon or Onnit links, which I'm not going to do any of those read-throughs today. One, I can't do it for the Onnit. Amazon I can, but don't worry, folks. It doesn't tell me who you are. So if you want to have your one night in Bangkok, you can buy the David Carradine karate gi. You can buy the robe, have your fun. Ultra Vibration Max 5000s. I won't know who's buying it. I'll pontificate on the product, but I won't know who's buying it, I promise. But yeah, you guys can click on those links, do your shopping at no extra cost to you. It sends a small percentage back to this podcast. But between stupid billionaires jerking themselves off into space, I don't feel great about plugging that. And I'm trying to actively order less from fucking Amazon. Hopefully you are too, but if you still find yourself having to order some things, ease your conscience, and mine, I guess, by helping the little guy out over here. I'm very grateful for my spot, but a place in the media and a blue check mark and everything, folks. It's not a lot of money in this, so and especially when you do a bunch of stuff for free or next to nothing. So yeah, feel free to help and contribute in any of those ways. It's appreciated. So the quick note, I don't want to spend too long on this. Basically, I referenced in the past, and it's the same shit that's always been going on in history, in my country, in many martial arts, in MMA. Now, in, out, it's whatever. But it sucks. And yeah, basically, without slinging mud or getting too deep into it, but since I did finally post on it publicly, because, I've seen it for a minute, but for anybody trying to say, oh, you're trying to fucking start shit, I'm not trying to start shit with Luke. I actually known about this and have seen it on my feed through multiple sources for a while, that essentially there was a dude on his show flashing white power signs saying, I got your back, brother, and doing it multiple times throughout the show. And if anybody wants to accuse me of cancel culture or trying to, throw shade at colleagues or whatever, I've seen this actually for weeks and stayed fucking quiet about it. But Luke, to his credit, acknowledged it publicly today, the other day, depending on when you're listening to this. Except, in the discourse from him and others, it was the clearly racist sign, of the white power sign. It looks like the OK sign. It's been appropriated, sadly, officially since 2019 through multiple sources. And it's really easy to look this up through multiple sources and verify it through multiple sources with a simple Google search. But I just can't stand to stay quiet when I see racist shit not being acknowledged for racist shit. So I had to step in and provide those said links to help educate. And Luke was cool about it. And again, for anybody thinking that is some personal, no, I sat on it. If I wanted to, I could have fucking went about it a whole different way. I didn't. And secondly, people that don't know this, me and Luke worked in Sirius XM and shared the same studio whenever he was in Vegas. Had plenty of I don't fucking know the guy. Not friends. We didn't go out drinks or anything. Actually, I did have drinks with him after the MMA awards back in the day. It was a bunch of us, but regardless, I don't know him well. But for all these, I've had a lot of little exchanges with him. He's always been pleasant to me. There's never been some kind of issue. I gotta get him back. We got into that argument. Or nothing like these things, folks. Nothing. So I just want to nip that in the butt and focus on what should be fucking focused on. Is that there is plenty of racist shit, and if you don't call it out, racist shit begets racist shit. And even if, because there's a lot of benefit of the doubt fans in there and all the replies, oddly enough, from one specific group of dude. And I'm not calling them out because I also share this ethnicity, and these people are either well-meaning randoms, well-meaning colleagues, and or smart and well-meaning people I consider friends. But unfortunately, I still have issue with the perspective and the initial hair trigger things that are said, which is always benefit of the doubt, devil's advocate, instead of calling shit for what it is. And I just couldn't, just seeing someone do obvious racial stuff and watching everybody bend over backwards and pound for pound break down this footage like the Zapruder film, like Conor McGregor style, to a dude who, hold the Bud Light bottle with the sleeves cut off and had multiple tattoos of murdered and or slaughtered and or hung women tattooed all over his body. But yeah. Meanwhile, people like myself, or that look like myself, have to continue to see the news and can't turn on our feeds without seeing fucking fellow people who look like us, Asians, Asian Pacific Islanders, disproportionately still, folks, and anyone else, fucking targeted since the pandemic. Everyone's talking about the Olympics because everybody has to have an opinion on that, right? In the same group that seems to have all an opinion of race also always have an opinion on sports and women and mental health, even though I'm not sure everybody quite has a grasp yet on mental health or how to talk about it and approach it, which is fine, but let's just be honest about it, right? Because again, I'm guilty of a lot of these things too, albeit not the thing in question that started this here little rant that I'm going to end shortly. Nothing that egregious, but to pretend that I'm perfect, fuck no. I need to improve too, folks. I need to educate myself too, and that's all I'm asking here, is instead of fucking feeling like we have to have an opinion, which is fine to have an opinion. It's your fucking God-given right. That's great. But you don't fucking have to have one, It's like we all know that person. It's like, dude, you don't have to be an asshole every day. You could take a day off. Okay? We all have attributes like that ourselves we can call ourselves on, including our fucking opinions on shit we have no clue about. So when someone who's not your sex or not your race talks about their experience, especially when it's relevant and it's factually and historically backed, can we just can we just stop fucking questioning these people and their experiences because we know better? We know them better than they know themselves. We know their race that is not yours, their sex that is not yours, their experience that is not yours. I don't get why. Why is that everyone's first reaction? Why is it a particular, group of people? I don't get it. It makes me sick. And I'm tired of having to explain that the sky is blue. This is not Dan Tom's Hardcore History Hour. I shouldn't have to be sharing you these stories. I shouldn't have to be sharing stories on my feed. We should all be able to just fucking have fun, be positive, and fucking help each other out, make some money, help make each other entertained and feel better. All these reciprocations. But no, there's more division out there. And yeah, and I've been keeping track, by the way, of what colleagues do speak out about POC issues, by the way. It's real fucking vacant. So I wasn't humoring any of that either. So yeah, that's all I want to say on that. And yeah, let's just, again, we don't have to tear each other down. This isn't about pointing fingers at each other. We just call things out for what they are. Or stay quiet, listen, and educate yourself further. Because I know I need to. And if I need to, there's sure as shit a lot of my other colleagues that definitely fucking need to, and that's that. That's it. No one's better than anybody. We just all need to be better, okay? All right, moving on. UFC Vegas 32. 15 minutes in. UFC Vegas 32. We went 6-5 overall, although there's asterisks all over. You could have went 7-3-1, right? With a draw that should have been in there. We went 2-2 in straight plays, although we should have went 3-1. We'll get to that. We went 1-0 in props, which is nice, although that alternate number is actually not as good of a one. Unlike this trend, it was 1-2 because I did some late round ads that didn't hit, but were really small sprinkles and were really close for what it's worth. And we went 0-2 in the two parlays, which really should have been 1-0 and 1 push. But again, we'll get to that. That is UFC Vegas 32, which is headlined by TJ Dillashaw versus Corey Sandhagen. Of course, not just being contrarian to be contrarian, but actually putting analysis behind it that, your boy seldom gets credit for. seems like. But one of the only people who took Dillashaw, one of the only people to pick him by decision. The wrestling wasn't granted as big of a factor as I thought, maybe in what would be a winning scenario in that scenario, but he did what he needed to do to win in what were close and arguable rounds. That being said, I did score it for Sandhagen for what it was worth, folks. I got all the bad beats and had to watch everyone and their mothers brag about all the good beats. Despite your boy here, of course, having the right analysis, I had to try to end my night good, especially when my analysis actually was good, and I ended the night with a contrarian right, spot on play. So that was nice. The decision prop cashed, and TJ Dillashaw sprinkle cash, which I ended up needing. Right, I ended up adding that. I said it was going to depend on my night of whether I play or how much I play that fight. Well, I needed it because the judges gave Raulian Paiva over Kyler Phillips. Now, you could say that he deserved to lose if you played Kyler Phillips. I didn't put my whole money in my bank there. It was more my hedge in case I got screwed over, which I did on my other parlay, which we'll get to. But, and I'm a big fan of Paiva. Again, I'm not the only analyst talking about it. A lot of people talk about Paiva's body work and his counters and aggressive stuff. Your boy here was talking about that, and that's what he showed. And I did say round 3 is going to be interesting. Of course, that turn came a lot sooner because none of us could have predicted that Kyler Phillips been fucking drinking Slurpees full of himself since his last appearance and just came up, fucking fueled off all the hype, and just showed complete disrespect and disregard. And for that, he didn't deserve to win the fight, folks, for what it's worth. I'm not saying Kyler Phillips should have won. I'm saying, biased aside, biased included, all the above, judges should just do their fucking job right and score that at 10-8. It's just like, it was one of those things where it was like, well, does Phillips have to smuggle in a fight? Does a fighter have to smuggle in a prison shank? Because that was really the only other step up. I mean, I would have been closer to a 10-7 than a 10-9 just for the fact that a 10-7, I believe in criteria, is by definition when a finish is like nearly happens, or it should have happened, or I forget the exact language, but there was moments like that, including the very end, where Paiva didn't get up, and if a ref was, again, more stricter with these things where these guys helped at their corner, remember that kind of screwed us over with one of the fights, right? Or they get lucky in their corner, he got his ass beat right in the corner where he was supposed to be, so he just sat up against the cage. But, that maybe that doesn't get out, right? A lot of people were calling online for that to be stopped, so again, if you played Paiva, congrats on you, but that it was the wrong scorecard. That's the fact. Darren Elkins defeated Derek Minner. That fight went exactly the way I said. And I said, I know that there's, and James Krause, man, he's shouts to my man Eric Nixon. Glad to see him getting nomination. One of the only good nominations from that Fighters Award. But I think James Krause should have been in there. He's amongst my leaderboard right now for Coaches of the Year for this year. So it's no disrespect to him, but I was not, like I told you, I wasn't sold. Derek Minner's still the same guy, and guess what? He was still the same guy. Speaking of people still being the same, Macy Barber defeated Miranda Mavic, apparently, according to the judges. Of course, you guys know where I'm going to go here. It's funny. I felt like there was people that was more mad at it and hanging on to it more than I was. Because me, I try to overcorrect the steering wheel and just move on and go, okay, well, I guess I deserve that or this or that. But anybody just trying to be, again, it's the same people being contrarian probably on that would be contrarian on issues of race or sex that is not theirs. But I think if you're being contrarian here, you're just being contrarian to be contrarian. If you're saying, well, they didn't do a lot. Okay, well, not every fight is Jung Garcia action, and not every fight is Penn Sanchez as far as complete domination. There's plenty of variance. In fact, when the best fight the best, as they are advertised to do in the UFC, which is supposed to be the top level, which you assume top level people actually do their jobs, much less do them good, you are going to have close fights. And judges should be able to get those right. And this was not close. There was not a ton of big action. But unfortunately, because judges are overcorrecting the steering wheel on the way they judge, damage is the number one criteria, but unfortunately, it just fuels the same mistakes that they were making back in the 2012 Diego Sanchez era, where they're rewarding big strikes, whether they land or not. In fact, more often than not, rewarding them for not landing more than they're landing. while counters and bodywork are being missed. Now I know, we'll talk to the fight. About a fight later on the card that made bodywork absolutely undeniable. But unless you do it like the way Brendan Allen did to Puna Heli Soriano to burn that ahead of time, to make it super obvious, the judges aren't going to get it. And like I was live tweeting at the time, that Miranda Maverick was landing the cleaner shots, the more shots, and the more consistent shots as she consistently countered throughout the first 2 rounds, but particularly and especially in that second round. But where were the counters? They were to the body, and she was the southpaw going to the body in the open stance matchup as opposed to Allen, so it was actually more of an effective body shot because you're going toward the liver side. Obviously, she didn't shut down the liver. God, I wish she could have. But yeah, the judges, of course, weren't rewarding that, and even though she already won the round in my eyes and many others with eyes, she seals it with not just a takedown, because Barber may have got 1 or 2. I don't know if she was credited with either because she shouldn't have, because Maverick pretty much got right back up and she couldn't secure a position. But Maverick actually did stuff with it, with both strikes, submission setups, and back takes, which aren't given enough credit. It takes fucking skill to take a back, and those control positions should be worth a little more. Should they outweigh a bunch of damage? No, folks, but when it's close and we're going to the grappling, yes. Or how about even when it's just close in general? How about we're not going to the grappling? We're not waiting on that hinge? How about we're just crediting fucking meaningful and skillful grappling that's leading to passes, strikes, and submission attempts and control? Why don't we just reward it as the fight goes on, as is? Because it should be. It takes skill to get to that position. Just like the leg lock versus the oblique kick argument. It takes skill to get to a fucking leg lock. It doesn't take skill to fucking lift your leg up, and it doesn't barely take fucking balance, even though you're technically on one leg, to lift your leg up the bare fucking minimum to kick a kneecap. But yet we fucking laud that technique, right? And we fucking criticize every leg locker, But anyways, I'm not trying to stand for leg locks. I'm just bringing up the point of the fucking hypocrisies. Ah, boy, you're in a mood today, Dan. Sorry, folks. Yeah. But yeah, it was terrible. And then, yeah, speaking of low-key groups signaling inadvertent dog whistling, ties to white supremacy and Kanon, Macy Barber going and shouting out a organization, nothing wrong with helping kids if you're meaningfully trying to help kids, but yeah, go look into that one. So, of course, because, Dan Tom being on the wrong end of the most notoriously shit decisions for year number 2 in a row. And I don't want to complain because I still came in number 1 in staff picks. I still had a really profitable year last year betting, despite the year that was 2020, despite my bad luck of being on bad beats. Because, again, to my fucking credit, that's how you know your analysis is on. Because I can get the bad beats that everyone, other motherfucker seems to get. And your boy here still does okay. So, fuck it. But yeah, so yeah, of course she's got to go fucking shout some bullshit Kanon and thing, and then go on. And then what makes it even worse? And then she goes on this press, little press tour, fucking just unabashedly confident in her win. And then I think Matt Serra or someone asked her what she was reading, and I'm like, oh god, I forget. Someone was just when martial arts becomes dangerous, and it showed Gordon Ryan moving to Texas, and he's like, somebody hook me up with the government, ICE, police officers so I can teach them all jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, no! And, Matt Serra, well-meaning, he just heard oh, what? Saving kids? Oh, this must be good. Tell me more. Email me links. And she's like, sure. So I'm like, oh, great. Don't do it, Matt. But Matt Serra asked what she was reading or whatever, and she was like, a book by 50 Cent. And I'm like, and you guys know how fucking Dan Tom. I love, by the way, I love rap, hip-hop, old school, real shit, East Coast. You want to talk, get in my DMs. But, boy, when Dan Tom was in high school, graduating in 2003, there was not a song I hated more than 50 Cent. You can find me in the club, and all the bullshit, not even surface level, because it ain't even that deep. Fucking shit-ass lyrics, and, yeah, anyways, I'm like, fuck. Macy Barber, you just studied me to make me fucking to annoy me, because that's it. So there's gonna be bias on any Macy Barber fight going forward. I can call myself out here, folks. That being said, you bet your ass I'm going to be making this money back from her. Adrian Yanez defeated Randy Costa. I'm sorry, folks. I'm not this shitty and vindictive sounding. It's just I'm very upset. Just seeing all the white supremacist bullshit just really upset me. I almost fought one today. Lives in my neighborhood and drives fucking stupidly recklessly. And, of course, they're a pussy when they want to fight, even though I'm a fucking out-of-shape nerd with glasses, which is hilarious. They don't want to fight me. Instead, they make a jerk-off sign. I'm like, you want me to jerk you off? And they didn't appreciate that joke, but they didn't want to fight either. So I got problems, folks. I got to check my... I know I don't look like it. It's like, what the fuck is... Well, Dan, you're a nice guy. You look like a nerd. Calm down. Trust me, there's a fucking psycho side. Let's just say I actually relate to some Sean Strickland stuff. Some, folks. Not the self-proclaimed racist stuff, which we'll get to. And hey, shouts to Sean for admitting that about his past self. So I'm just talking more about the anger. Anyways, not angry was Adrian Yanez and Randy Costa. That was a friendly fight. I stayed away and enjoyed the show. And that was awesome. Shouts to my colleagues, Gorgeous Jordan Goes. They had a really good interview with Adrian Yanez. It was really, 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 really good. Brendan Allen defeated Punahele Soriano. That was biased, and I was trying to stay away from my bias, folks, but the price dropped to like even money, near dog money, over $1 discount. And I couldn't help myself but take a shot, and I miss. But Puna will learn, and props to Brendan Allen, man. Really good performance from him. Mickey Gold defeated Jordan Williams. Glad I stayed away from that one because I was wrong there. Nasruddin Imavov defeated Ian Heinisch. Glad I stayed away from that one because I was wrong there, and that was one that I was actually wrong on. Julio Arce defeated Andre Uhl. Was I right? Was I calling all the southpaw stuff before even... And all respect, say what you will about Dom Cruz. He's an amazing analyst. He did a great job that night. But God forbid I give myself a little credit for beating an amazing analyst to the punch by literally, you could accuse these guys of reading off my notes sometimes. But that's how that's little secret. I've been doing that for over a decade, and that's why I got in this analysis in the first place, because I and my old friends at the time were sick as fuck of hearing me literally call almost everything before it would happen on commentary, because that's still my dream, and who knows, we'll see. If I keep burning bridges and calling out white supremacist bullshit, maybe I won't have my dream of calling fights, because, politics is a big part of this game, and your boy, when I say I could give a shit about politics, I mean that in many ways, and unfortunately, all of them seem to be harmful to me. But Julio Arce was not harmful. He did his job, unfortunately. The judges were determined to destroy the other legs. Sajara Eubanks defeated Elise Reed. Again, it was a bantamweight facing an atomweight in some ways, and it showed. Tried to tell you guys. That's why she was a leg, and she did her job. Belbita, I missed that dog money, so I didn't play this pick, but the pick came through. And she defeated Hannah Goldie. All right. How did we do there? 29. Longer than I wanted to, but hey. Okay, let's move on to brighter days. I actually have plays, even though it's a shit card and I'm not confident in these plays. I broke them down in unit sizes, but I did downsize it a little bit on my personal bankroll, just out of PTSD, if you will, from the bad calls. And so I decided to go smaller, but spread it out, to keep it fun. And I don't know if it's safer because it's more plays, but you know what I mean. Trying to be fun and a little more strategic than putting too much confidence. So we got Sean Strickland minus 200, Uriah Hall plus 172, roughly, depending on where you look. Yeah, I submitted Strickland, and after I went through the analysis, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not confident in this as the line is. I don't disagree with him being favored. He could certainly win. He'll certainly be winning the rounds and the majority of the fight. But I've been doing the classic picking someone to lose until they win, which is Uriah Hall. Not necessarily all the time, but a lot of the times. They've had a lot of, even Sean Strickland said he was like, he was an all Uriah Hall because he saw him when he was 18 years old, and Uriah Hall was just coming off the Ultimate Fighter. They have a lot of sparring sessions. And you go like you think, I from what it sounds like from Strickland, they would go hard. And then, as he would explain, are you okay? It's probably Uriah Hall being nice, but also trying to check him, because the way Uriah Hall explained it, like, that's exactly how I checked guys in traditional martial arts too. Well, first I would be too nice, and I would hit him to the body light, and then they wouldn't respect it, and then I'm like, okay, they're really still trying to go hard. They don't want a point spar, they want a hard spar. And then I would really dig front kicks into the body, or counter crosses in the body, and then you go, are you okay? So I actually sentiment with Hall there on that one, and I'm going to side with him here. He does a quiet but consistent job attacking the legs, and he'll have the counter that I'm depending on for the pick. The kick ability, whether it's a ending shot, knockout, spin kick off top, or the quiet work that he does consistently down below, will be good for Sean Strickland's boxing-centric stance. He seems to be in better shape, and now kicking more. I doubt that's not a coincidence. The further he gets away from the accident, the better he feels. He is only 30 after all, despite having some hard miles on him, hard sparring miles, where the majority of the damage happens in the training room, folks. That is Sean Strickland. So I don't know if the age is as a worry. We're up here at middleweight. I know Hall is turning 37 the day of the fight. But he's still one of the fastest middleweights, and he will still, I believe, be faster than Sean Strickland. And Sean Strickland, whether it's at welterweight or middleweight, he's faced very few fast, long, knockout artists who can kick. And the ones who even remotely fit that bill, he has lost to, and or probably should have lost to, Luke Barnett. Luke Barnett, one of the funniest street fight stories I've ever heard, by the way. Nice guy in person. But yeah, man, I know it's could very well be the season of the scrappy, skinny white dudes, like I've been saying, and I've been playing a lot of the times, more often than not, right? But I got Hall here. I think it's going to be one of two ways. Strickland's either going to steal the ball and run away with it and drown him, or in that process, if he doesn't completely run away or put enough distance between the two, he may just end up awakening the sleeping giant. So I'm going to go with the latter. I feel like the safest angle there, though, is under 3.5. It opened at dog money. I missed it. You can still get it for like near even, minus 115. That's what I grabbed it for. For a chalk play, even though it's a prop, and I'll explain why, or it fits in the grand scheme of things for me. So take what you will for that, and it's just a friendly, honest suggestion. All right, Kyung Ho Kung minus 126. Hey everybody, it's me, Ariaya. Looks like he's like an extra at Weekend at Bernie's. He looks like he should have like the Chippendale, not Chippendale, like exotic dancers, the Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Chippendale, yeah, puts you in danger. He feels like he should have that red shirt that I forget the chipmunk that I liked more, because he seemed like more of a party animal. He looks like he should have one of those shirts unbuttoned with the furry chest and the the gold necklace. Hey everybody. And me, I always got to go with my guy Hani Aya. He's in the small cage. I actually originally submitted a Kyung Ho Kung pick, and according to my own analysis, he's got a 58% chance of winning, because he is one of 3 fighters coming off of the year plus layoff. As we all know, they all but one, except, asterisks, because one was facing one with Goldie and Belbita. They all won outside of that. So that's not good for Yaya, that trend. But Yaya is almost coming off. No, not really. But he has come off those layoffs as well and done well. And I like him even better when he's fresher. And he had like the 2 fights before this that were sketchy. He had 1 year layoffs in between those. He actually had a nice, like, I don't want to say tune-up, because, man, Ray Rodriguez, nice dude, percentage to black belt, fought his ass off. But, I got to imagine that win made Yaya feel better, right? So it was a good momentum builder in the grand scheme of things, is what I'm trying to say. And essentially, like a lot of the dogs, I'm picking. It's funny, my chalk not so much, but all the dogs are the better grapplers against fighters who can't help but grapple or close the distance, and that is Kyung Ho Kung. Hanayaya can also, strike and kick legs. He's cross-trained at American Top Team. And Kyung Ho Kang has had his legs. He showed very susceptibility because he is a 5'8", long and lanky bantamweight, or 5'9" bantamweight, I should say. And he is 33 now, so he is exiting his prime. And he keeps coming off these 1-year layoffs, so this could be... And I was looking at him he looks like he's in great shape and all, but man, he cuts some serious weight. Because he doesn't look out of shape at all, but he looks much thicker outside of camp, not unrecognizable, but it's a big difference, man. Especially that low, that much body percentage. And he's already not a guy known for a great gas tank. He's just as tired, if not more tired, than most of his opponents. So it's not like he's got a gas tank edge. He may have a cardio edge on paper or eye test or fine, let's just give it to him over Yaya, but it's not massive. And Yaya, even though he has the thing of gassing, you look at those fights, he's still very competitive. He's still able to get third-round submissions and be competitive in third rounds, even late into his career. This later chapter, I'm counting. He's actually gotten better because he himself admits that he took training more seriously. He actually gave himself rest where he was doing the hardcore, Brazilian tough guy thing where I'm just going to, jiu-jitsu, train MMA. Back to back, and like a lot of fighters, not a Brazilian thing, but a lot of fighters from Haniyaya's era, they weren't taking good care of themselves. And now he actually goes by a diet. He does all these things. He looks physically better, even though he's older. It's the craziest thing. And Kyung Ho Kang has not faced, even though he is, apparently a really good grappler that gets, a lot of credit. I think it was Ed Gallo. Shouts to Ed Gallo. Was it the Fights at MMA podcast? Either way, you know me. I always try to shout people and give people proper credit. But was saying something he comes from a bit of a weird kind of belt wrestling background, and his teammate Korean Zombie gives him a lot of credit and said he kicks his ass, but he's a really well-rounded grappler for sure, Kyung Ho Kang, for sure. But there's black belts and there's black belts, and Hanayaya is a black belt. He is an ADCC winner. That's the king of the kings for me as far as assessing toward relevance to MMA. IBJJF can go suck my dick. ADCC. Sorry, I'm not a fan. Just anyways, I need to get into that. But Kyung Ho Kung has not faced a lot of powerful grapplers. His most powerful grappler he's faced that the most relevant, you got to go way back to 2014. But that is a common opponent, Mitchinori Tanaka. Tanaka. I remember I was just bringing up that point with the names. I'm like, oh god, I was just talking about this. This is a perfect fight, the Tanaka fight. Mitchinori Tanaka. And he was more of a positional guy. And I thought he actually beat both by the way they were judging fights back then, and even the way you judge fights now. And I think he even technically outstruck Kung. But I thought he beat Kung, which was Kung got the split decision, of course. Whereas Hanayaya was able to, I believe, even win round 3 with Mitchinori Tanaka and out wrestle him. So I think he's gonna get. I think he not only can beat Kung, but he can actually beat him by decision. So I wouldn't run out and play the sub prop. It may be tempting now, especially if you're at one of the houses that still doesn't have him at plus money. You might want to get that angle because if you weren't able to, miss the boat on the plus money, but be careful because this is a fight that he actually could win by decision. So I got Hanayaya and I laid a unit at plus 100 on him. That's what I got him at late. I know. Cheyenne Bays minus 176. Gloria DePaula plus 148. Something tells me the dog is live here, but I didn't study this, so it'll be on the avoid, and I'll take Bays strictly on only training bias. So do not listen to me. This is big time avoid or dog or pass kind of things, but you should probably avoid it. Nicholas Stolze minus 200. Jared Gooden plus 168. I originally submitted Night Train for my pick. I'm not sure why he took this fight on 4 days' notice, but he does look good. He's training with Phil Rowe. This is a sneak attack spot because he looks like he's in shape and was training for a fight. His coach recommended he should. It seems like serendipity because as soon as he called, sure enough, Sean Shelby was looking for somebody as Stolze's opponent dropped off. However, rewatching it, I didn't like, you know, his hesitancy in a guy coming off a loss and figuring out and still fleshing out his striking in Abubakar Nurmagomedov, and that low output and what a kicker of his level could do, much less a guy with actual kickboxing and I believe Muay Thai experience in Stolze. And Stolze, I believe, is a purple belt to Jared Gooden's brown belt, but it's like Dean Lister, and like he trains with like legit high level guys in Germany in that grappling scene. So I don't know if Gooden's gonna have a edge there, especially since he doesn't really, have a strong takedown process, at least recently at the higher levels. Has shown it in these UFC fights, whereas Stolze actually had a lot of moments scrambling and catching Ramazan Emeev, and actually had a good argument for stealing round one and winning that fight on the cards, stealing rounds with damage. He's coming off of he's another fighter. He's the second of three fighters coming off of a layoff, but again, percentages is in his side, so I'll go with it here. Again, it's the chalk. It's part of a 3-leg parlay. And with the chalk, I'm actually picking the guys who don't have the grappling edge on paper. But there are other trends of, regardless of layoff, that have to do with styles that have me leaning that way. So I got Stolze. Ryan Benoit, minus 142. Zaruk Adashev. Zaruk is on fire. I was looking at Ryan Benoit here. I feel like he's underrated, underpriced, and he still might look that way. However, I remember that he fainted on the scales. I also seen that. I remember that Adashev went the distance with Sumiderji. I also saw that Adashev was training with the likes of Timur Valiev and Askar Askarov, who is no longer on the card, but a solid contingent of guys who can grapple, to round out his kickboxing experience. Whereas Benoit has been taking layoffs, trying and failing all around the country as far as like different teams and different amalgamations. And now it looks like he's finally back in Texas at Saxon and back at square one, despite the problems he claimed he had or whatever. I can't keep track, okay? I'm not throwing shade or accusation. I'm just trying to piece together as I think out loud here, folks. Either way, I don't like those trends, and that kind of scares me off here. I'm picking Benoit, but it scares me off of a play. So I avoided. Could be hindsight. Looks like you were dumb for not taking the dog, or you're dumb for not taking the favorite. It might be one of those fights. I am taking the favorite in the next fight, the second leg of the parlay, Bam Bam Bar and Barberina, minus 255, who I've been cashing on since Sage Northcutt, and Warley Alves. He was big dogs to those guys. Over Jason Witt, plus 210. Again, no disrespect to James Krause. Witt's another guy who looks like he's on a somewhat of a mid to late career renaissance under the care of Krause, who looks like he's really helping him. Dude's an athlete. Again, the better grappler on paper. I think he's got like a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It speaks more in his style physically and on the on-paper accolades as well. Yet, I'm going to be picking Brian Barberina because he's a hard guy to out-grapple. He's strong in the clinch. He scrambles up very well. He's durable and will fight, for your money. I know he had the loss to Randy Brown, but Randy Brown, not a bad fighter. And Brian Barberina, layoff, had a back that didn't work and had to fight to pay some farm bills for the farm he just bought. So yeah, and he's come back and looked in slowly better form. He looked kind of weird and had like his eyes were puffy and it almost looked like he had patches on his skin. And it really scared me away in his last fight. But then he came out and performed like Bam Bam. And in his Instagram here, he looks like healthy. He doesn't even. I know I wasn't just seeing things because he looks almost like back to normal. It's always hard to tell with Bam Bam because even when he's in good shape, he's got a bit of the dad bod thing. I have one. I say it endearingly, and he too admits it endearingly, so I don't feel bad saying it. But he almost looks like, from my eye test, looks almost like I haven't seen him this lighter since him getting down to the 155 days, but this fight's at 170, so that's a good sign. So give me Barberini here, especially with Jason Witt. The last two UFC level southpaws he faced, I believe he got knocked out by, and those were both grapplers. Chance Rencounter, and which granted was a minute ago, and a more relevant one, which was Takashi Sato. I know he took that fight on shorter notice. But just saying, he faces a southpaw who will fight for your money and has fought for mine in the past. So give me Bam Bam. Nico Montagno is not the next parlay piece, but she is the last fighter on this card returning from a year-plus layoff. So she is favored. She is the pick here as she faces Yanan Wu, plus 205. Montana has been training since the pandemic out here in Vegas, which is a good sign, but I listened to an interview with Aaron Brownstead, and shouts to my man Aaron. Love him. TSN MMA show. Subscribe. Check it out. Give them a 5-star rating and review. But, my God, it is tough. It is tough listening to interviews. It's tough watching her fights. Everything feels like it's pulling teeth. And I feel so bad because this girl feels like she has such bad luck, and I just want to root for her, and I'm going to pick her here. But, man, do I have no confidence in it. Who knows what Yunnan was going to come out and look like. She's got some freakish strength. But Montano should be the more technical fighter and the better grappler. Next fight, Melsik Bagdasaryan, minus 142. Colin Anglin, plus 120. This one didn't make my odds checker sheet because this was the last fight I researched. Yet, when I skimmed this card, this was the first dog that jumped out. What the fuck is wrong with you, Dan? Why did you wait this long? Because your assumptions were right, and I'm taking Colin Anglin over Melsik Bagdasaryan. Not only do I don't even need to make an argument because you have the fighter who's a dog flipping over a dollar's worth to dog money, so the value alone is justification. But the reason why it flips is because everybody's hyped on Bagdasaryan, and not just because I'm trying to make a case because I have a bet, but no, even go to the guy who grades the winners fights for Contender Series. That's me, Shmee, that's me. And you will see that even at the time, I was one of the few in the minority who was against the hype. I downgraded Bagdasaryan to a B for Bagdasaryan. Because he just kept crashing into the clinch. He just kept crashing into the strikes. You know, you got these suspect guys like Adashev, who they come from, you know, they got the Glory kickboxing. You know, he has some K1 names on there. But, like, you have some sketchy stuff on there. And, like, you don't know, like, okay, what you know, kickboxing's weird, right? It can mean a lot. It can mean very little more often than not, though. Maybe not very little, but not as much as the title would indicate, is fair to say. And he's very inexperienced, and I'm glad Dana White didn't sign him, like I said in my article, and that he should get some more experience before getting back on. And now he just gets a layoff and no more experience. He gets thrown into the UFC, and he's a first-round finish guy going against a slow burn fighter in Colin Anglin. Now, Anglin looks like he's almost looking for too much angles with his low hands and can get hit, very hittable, but he looks like he's got a chin, and he's got the mental fortitude and a physical durability thus far. And until that's proven wrong, you know Dan Tom loves me some slow burn fighters who can wrestle box, take a back, be slick, take angles, and will now be at least his second camp with Factory X Muay Thai, where he's paired up with some hard kicking southpaws, ones that I like Jonathan Martinez and other southpaws over there, as they provide solid kickboxing partners. So he's at a good camp for this fight. And he's in the small cage and can get takedowns and maybe be more opt for takedowns, knowing that this guy's an even bigger kickboxer than the Tajikistan guy, who a lot of the Tajikistan is like Wushu Sanda. So there is a bit of grappling in their base as well, for what it's worth, as we did see. To Naimov's credit, I believe that was the guy Anglin faced. Anywho, I like Anglin. He looks in even better shape here. He looks just as jacked as Bagdasaryan does, except he's taller, longer, tougher, better gas tank, more well-versed, better experience against better guys, and the line flipped. Whole unit like Yaya as well on Anglin at plus 120. Next fight, we got Rafa Garcia minus 330 versus Hoggle from Labyrinth at plus 260. Chris Grissmacher's going to kick my ass. Chris Grissmacher, plus 265. Sorry, folks. Hoggle. It's hard, man. Grissmacher, it seems like a wild man. I didn't see where he's training at this camp, but I know he was jumping around at the last camp, even if he found somewhere stable. At this point in his career, I feel like he is who he is. He's a grinding dude, and that small cage will suit that, but I don't think he's going to be able to muscle or out technique Rafa Garcia or outbox or outright outwork him, to be honest. Rafa Garcia, who's very durable, the Combate Americas champion. I believe he's got like a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or something as well. And he has been extensively training with Justin Gaethje and Trevor Whitman at Elevation over there in Denver. So, yeah, I like Rafa Garcia for my third leg of the parlay with Stoltze and Barberina for plus 170. And I put 1.3 units on that, 1.35, whatever the exact thing is. I kind of rationed it out to have some coverage here. And I'll go over that, I guess, when I get to the rest of my plays. It won't make sense now. But yeah, I took Rafa Garcia. All right. Kai Kamaka Jr. minus 116. Danny Chavez minus 102. I just spoke to Eric earlier today as he was going into quarantine to corner Kai Boy. I'm going to take Kai here, but it's biased, and I am staying away because of that. I know some people I respect are on Kamaka. I am picking him to win. He has the tighter strikes, the tighter counters. You know, judges love to score those as they fucked Kamaka again for the cleaner striker. But anyways, yeah, I'm taking Kamaka there, but I'm not playing it. All right, Ashley Yoder minus 152, Jinyu Fry plus 128. I didn't study this one, and I just don't feel like I have a good read on this one. So for that reason, it is on my avoid list. Ronnie Lawrence minus 152, Trevin Jones plus 128. Okay. I ended up liking these last two dogs, but who I did have my eye on, by the way. But I didn't like him as much as I did like, but I did take some interesting angles and lowered what I did play nonetheless. So these will be half-unit shots on the side that I'm on, which is Trevin Jones. It's dangerous. Ronnie Lawrence is really good, man. He looks like a menace. He's got like that. He comes from traditional martial arts, that kung fu base. And he's brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but it looks like he's been wrestling his whole life. He's got like that Justin Scoggins thing where you can tie in the traditional martial arts to the takedown transitions really well. Although he probably wants to stick to body locks in this fight to be all the way in or all the way out against a dangerous counterpuncher in Jones, or just a dangerous guy, maybe not counterpuncher, because it seemed like when Jones decided to come forward in his fights and he leads with this sneaky lead right hook that almost came up like an uppercut in his last fight. To stop guys, and that could certainly hit a guy who is tall and upright, especially for this division, and Ronnie Lawrence, who has been hit and dropped by southpaws before. See his fight with who's that? Steve Garcia. I don't know how that guy made weight. That guy missed weight at featherweight and looked like a good sized lightweight, and he used to fight at bantamweight. I don't know how the fuck that happened, but unfortunately, Ronnie Lawrence had to fight him. So there was a size difference there, granted, but that was a southpaw who dropped him and beat him up on the feet. And he's not as good of a grappler as Trevin Jones, Trevin Jones, not just higher rank as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt compared to Ronnie Lawrence's brown belt, but he's actually competed in gi, no-gi especially, and I believe he's like a 4-time no-gi winner. Trevin Jones, not ADCC or anything crazy like that, but a well-experienced grappler before and during his MMA career. So for that reason, I also feel like him by submission is live. Now, he actually has more rear naked chokes than guillotine finishes, but he's built for a guillotine. I've seen him hit guillotines in his grappling footage. He has guillotine wins dating all the way back from his amateur and then to his pro. And when Ronnie Lawrence does get away from the body lock that I do like, he tends to do this Dominic Cruz knee tap impression, and he really gives his neck. And he got caught speeding with a guard pass in his Contender Series fight. And even against a guy like Cachero, who I like Cachero, by the way, but he's not as accoladed or ranked of a grappler as Trevin Jones is. He snatched and gave him a quick scare that he had to literally front flip out of. Ronnie Lawrence did. I have a weird inkling that Trevin Jones is going to guillotine him, either hurt him and make him shoot, or catch the lazy shots when he gets more tired as the round goes on. Now, Ronnie Lawrence doesn't look like he tires much. He looks like he pushes through it. I don't think he gasses, but I'd say tire as far as his technique does lax up, as most of us all do / would in that situation, by the way. So not hating, just putting some puzzle pieces together. So between that and the live countering threat, I took Trevin Jones money line small, and then even smaller, like quarter unit small, sprinkled on inside the distance to cover both those outcomes at plus 200, and did an additional quarter on submission because I was able to get it at plus 1500 up as high as that at some books. And I felt that was worth a sprinkle if that inkling is right. And if that one catches, well, then that pays for pretty much all the underdogs and underdog props. So because if submission catches, that means inside of the distance. That means money line does as well. But in all actuality, I just need 2 out of the 4. Even if the 2 least valuable dogs out of the 4 dog plays I play hit, folks, I should be able to cover with the way I laid it out. If I do half and half, and then whether it's half my parlay or half the chalk prop of the under in the Strickland fight, those should cover one another / cross cover a decent amount of the props if the parlay hits, especially. So that's kind of how I branch these out. Of course, that 4th dog is Philip Rowe plus 130, minus 154 Orion Koski. I got less confident in this one because I thought it was the other Koski brother who was the 1-rounder finish one. But Orion I liked a lot. I liked more than Dana did, and I liked more than the Gen Pop did. Dana was, of course, unfair because of the cheeky little pause because they were both a little tired, and he did the premature ending to round 2 fist bump that pissed Dana off. And I feel like he's kind of like another angling guy. He actually reminds me of Colin Anglin, so that's funny they're on this card. Contender Series guys. And possibly slow burns, too. Very similar styles. And get wild. Except Koski's got this weird perseverance. And I did not want to bet against him in this spot initially, because at least at first, because of that chip on his shoulder that he had. He's like, I'll show you, Dana. I'll show you. On that Contender Series, if people forget. So he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, and even more because, again, this guy comes from adversity. Him and his brother's story is a pretty crazy story. So these guys aren't dudes to quit. So he really took that personally, of Dana accusing him of being a quitter or something along those lines. And this is weird because he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, which is good, but this is another flag that kind of supports my Rowe pick, is that he's coming off of a shoulder surgery. On his IG post, he said something like 5 or 6 months or something, or the doctor said, don't do anything for a year, take over a year, do this surgery, do that. He didn't do any of it and just did his own PT, and was like squatting and this and that, and was really proud of it, and that's his chip on his shoulder. But I don't know if it's just me, but like whether it's does look like most fighters, obviously they get in better shape as closer to fight time, and he does too. But whether it's the close to fight time shape or this in between, which would make sense if he was dealing with an injury, now you think about it, he doesn't look as in tight a shape as you think he would / normally would. And I think even his normal job is like a strength and conditioning coach at the UFC gym. So he's got a job where like, you would stay in shape too. And believe me, dude, the guy looks way better than my fat ass, obviously. I'm just saying, like, you judging by previous pictures, right? So I don't know. It's kind of a wild card. Part of me was like thinking, oh, this was the wrong Koski. I'm going to go with Koski, and I was going to completely reverse, not just not play Rowe, but reverse my pick. But the more I looked at it, he has a bunch of questions, whereas Rowe looks on point. Rowe's got the chip on his shoulder. He looks like he's fired up. He's got that confidence that he came into the Contender Series with, and that for whatever reason was not in that Gabe Green fight. But I think that Phil Rowe's feeling it. He's definitely the better grappler again, like a lot of pretty much all these plays. And he's in the smaller cage, and Orion seems to change levels and grapple a bit too, and can be taken down as well. So I think Rowe can win this fight there. If not submit him, I think he can maybe get a gritty decision. But if it starts getting wild and he starts taking damage, he does show bad body language on the feet. Rowe. So that's really worrisome. So this is a crazy fight. It feels like a pick'em, but again, if it's pick'em and you're gonna give me a clear plus line on a guy that I like, then I'm gonna take it. Phil Rowe for half a unit plus 130. All right, recap it. How do we do on time? Oh, right at the time limit. Okay, recapping. All right. Oh, by the way, in top Bellator 263, my main chart breakdown is going to be down. I took Fieri. I'm not going to play it, though, unless he drops to dog money. I was kind of hoping and thinking he might with the popularity on McKee. Basically, McKee doesn't have a lot of you can look at, but the fights that went to decision pretty much are fighters who could counter and or wrestle, and Fieri can do both. So that's pretty much why I'm picking Pitbull. But all right, recapping this card, UFC taking Hall over Strickland, taking everybody over Kung, taking Bays over DePaula, taking Stolze over Gooden, taking Benoit over Adeshev, taking Barberena over Witt, taking Montagno over Wu. It was fucking Wu that peed on the rug, man. Taking Anglin for Anglin over B for Bagatasarian. Taking Garcia over Gritzmacher. Taking Kamaka over Chavez, taking Yoder over Frey, taking Jones over Lawrence, taking Rowe over Koski. Parlay, Stolze, Garcia, and Barberena for plus 170, 1.35 units. Straight plays, I took Yaya plus 100 at a unit, took Rowe plus 130 for half a unit, Jones plus 128 for half a unit, Anglin plus 120 for a unit. Props, I took Strickland Hall under 3.5. I laid the chalk a unit on minus 115. Jones, I sprinkled very lightly quarter, maybe even under that, inside the distance plus 200, and that same small amount on the sub plus 1,500. Avoid Montagno Wu. Avoid, for me at least, Frey, Yoder, and Bays DePaula. All right, Amazon, YouTube, On It, PayPal, Apple Podcasts, 5-star ratings and reviews. Subscribe, Daniel Tom MMA to my YouTube. Follow at Dan Tom MMA. Follow, like, subscribe at the PYM Podcast on all social platforms. I promise to not pollute your feed. Stop Asian hate. Call out bullshit for what it is, and or let's all just try to be better. Sit back, listen, educate ourselves. Stop the hate. There's enough fucking divisiveness. Stop the hate, educate, and regardless, I sincerely wish you the best luck on your picks and plays, and always protect your neck.